A couple of years ago, Phil Spencer, the boss of Xbox, had a whole lot of his emails leak during, I think it was the FCC trial when Microsoft were buying Activision. A whole lot of embarrassing emails. It was a whole lot of, oh, we're blowing Sony out of the water. This is incredible. Xbox is on the up and up. I've been making incredible decisions. A whole lot of that. But I vividly remember that he mentioned, one day, I think that Microsoft, I myself, are going to buy out Nintendo. It's going to be a career moment. This is how confident I am that Xbox are going to be the leaders of gaming. It's going to be it. One day, Nintendo are going to accept my offer and we'll own everything. This is going to be it. How the tables have turned. It hasn't been all that long. But who's laughing now? It's certainly not Phil Spencer. In fact, he's in hiding. We haven't seen him for a long, long time. Is he still the boss of gaming at Microsoft, at Xbox? That remains to be seen, but they're certainly not making any more purchases. In fact, they're desperately trying to recover money, it seems, by any means necessary, including just fleecing the very last of their fans, as we've seen with all the price increases. They tried to increase games to $80. They have now increased their subscription, so all those Game Pass tiers. Game Pass isn't really something I keep up with, but I hear now there's 3 tiers, and the most expensive one, the only one where you actually get day one games, that's now $30 US a month, it seems like. So it's like you subscribe for 2 months, and you basically pay the price of a full AAA release. How many of them do Microsoft release these days? Probably not that many. They're probably not releasing them any month. So is it even worth it now? It was once called the best deal in gaming. I don't think that's the case anymore. But putting all that into context, where things are sort of going from here, it's crystal clear at this point, with all the leaks floating around, all the decisions being made by Microsoft. It's basically the end for Xbox, and saying that, I think I might have even said this before. I think a lot of people have said this before, probably a year or so ago, that I think we were kind of heading here, but the difference really is a year ago it was more like the seeds had been planted. It seemed that nothing was going to get better for Xbox as a console brand, that side of things, the whole Xbox ecosystem. It was going to get winded down, but that could take years and years. It could take a decade. They might do another console generation or something. Eventually, they'll just transfer to being a third-party software developer. They'll just make the games. But it now seems like this could happen extremely quickly, and they might never actually do real Xbox hardware ever again. What they've got on the market right now could basically be it, and they'll just move to third-party development. It'll just be the games from here on out. And I think the reason I find this interesting, and I do think it's the reason a lot of people are paying attention to this, they do find it interesting, they're watching just the meltdown of Xbox, everything just kind of fall apart. It's not really the console warring anymore. I think even the most overzealous Sony Xbox fan, even they've all just kind of moved on at this point. It's more about what's going to happen to all of these studios that Microsoft bought that are making the games or are meant to be making the games. We thought they'd be releasing software every month. We were going to get games and games all the time. So many studios, so much money at Microsoft. They can do anything. Nothing's holding them back at all. They're this big third-party software developer now. They're putting games everywhere on every console, across PC. No limits. You can play anywhere. That's what they kept saying. We're very curious now because if they're not really making consoles and it's just all in on software, they've got nothing else to worry about, that is going to mean that they are only focused on getting the best return from investment across all their studios, across all their IPs. We've seen in recent times what that means for gaming. It means that companies, we've seen it with EA, even before this whole buyout thing that's happening with them. We've seen it with other big companies, Activision, even before they got bought by Microsoft. These companies just focus on a small number of core IPs, often just live services, and really nothing else. They just want to get those big cash cows. They want to create their Fortnite or their Minecraft or whatever big game it might be that they can actually monetize. And they just want to stick to that. They don't care about smaller IPs. They don't care so much about a lot of genres that are harder to monetize, like maybe RPGs and different games that we might all enjoy. Plenty of those different genres. They move away from it all and they just consolidate on a select few. And everything else basically gets left in the bin. And the whole reason I think that a whole lot of people were interested in what Microsoft would do with all of these different studios is they thought we'd be getting a whole bunch of different games. Now, the leaks that I'm seeing, all the different leaks that are going around now, some of which are very reliable, suggests that we're not going to see a whole lot of different games from Microsoft. They are just going to be yet another one of those greedy publishers who are very focused on the short-term money. They do not care at all about smaller franchises, building up franchises and so on in these different genres of games. They're not going to do anything. So it does really sound like a lot of these studios that they own, like the Obsidians, and is there Ninja Theory, I think, is one of them, even some of the Bethesda studios, a lot of them may get left behind, which means they might get closed down, or they might just become Call of Duty factories, support studios, and so on, and they're not going to be making so many original games. Some of those studios are making original games right now that will probably get released because they're far enough in development. Outer Worlds 2, obviously, that comes out soon. Something like Clockwork Revolution. They'll probably release, but it's what happens after, which is quite worrying. Like we did see with Tango when we saw it with one of the Arcane studios as well. But what's really, really clear is that nothing is going to be safe. Even IPs that you think would be, they're not going to touch those. They're guaranteed to print money, like the Elder Scrolls and single-player Fallout games and so on. They might seem really, really safe, but I honestly don't think that they actually are anymore. Because, again, Microsoft, they're going to be focused on short-term money, short-term gains, and recurring revenue streams that are guaranteed to pay off their big debt, essentially, which is the Activision purchase, so getting that $80 billion back and anything else that they've been investing. They want that money back. Then they want to invest all of that into the other areas of Microsoft that make them a ton more money, a lot more money than their gaming division probably ever could. It's all going to go into AI and these different areas of the business that they care much more about, that are way more important to Microsoft. And gaming won't matter anymore. So even if we could say, come on, an Elder Scrolls 6 is guaranteed to sell 30 million copies. It could sell 40 million copies if they get it right. It could be a really, really big game. It's like, yeah, but if we can't really monetize it and it's just a one-off purchase, we might still want to put those resources into something else. And I mean, the Elder Scrolls 6, it might be an extreme example. Maybe that will almost certainly happen. But I mean, after that, there's probably no guarantees as making these games gets more expensive and the development years to do so take longer and longer. Microsoft may prefer just to take the risks on some big hits because they need to make the big money. They only see this as worth it if they can make the big bucks and put it all into AI and these other areas. They simply just do not care about gaming all that much now. In fact, it feels like they regret all of these purchases. They regret getting into gaming. But they've spent enough that they really need to recoup those losses. So this is what they're going to do. It's going to be the strategy to focus on these IPs. And that's not just coming from my thoughts. There are leaks that really do suggest that are very credible. For instance, this person, this Sneakers SO here on NeoGAF, a gaming forum, he's someone who has credibly leaked things before. He's not just posting here all day, random tidbits. He seems to only appear when something is actually happening. And there is a track record where 18 months ago, he was correctly leaking that all of Microsoft's games were eventually going to go third party. And that was back at a time where, it's only going to be 4. They're only going to move 4 games to PS5. It's just going to be a small 4 like Grounded and Pentiment and a couple of others. But that's it. They've been selected strategically. There's not going to be any more. And you go a few months later, everything is going over to PS5 and beyond. There's no limits, there's no barriers or any of that crap. They're full-on third-party. That was one of the leaks, but there were many others that he got right before any others. So he didn't just jump on a bandwagon or something. I also think there's some Tom Warren, I think is name was, who he's a bit of a shill for Xbox, but he also gets a lot of this stuff right. He seems to have insider knowledge. He also said that this person is spot on and reliable, so it sounds pretty credible. Maybe Xbox's plans will change, but it seems to be pretty accurate. And again, it seems to be interesting because it is going to change what the biggest publisher of software right now is doing, which I think is important because the whole industry might change as a result of all this. We're going to get less games, less single-player games. There's going to be all these shifts. So the leaker says, without going into too much detail, not long after the last round of layoffs, next one should be coming in Q1 26, by the way, and it's going to be just as massive as the last one. Some rumblings out of Xbox started coming out that were a little hard to believe. The ramifications of the COD Game Pass Gambit not working out were just starting to get properly measured, and I think there have been some reports now that say they lost $300 million in sales by putting Call of Duty onto Game Pass as a day one game where you could just sub, maybe play the campaign if that was all you cared about, and then you could just cancel it after that, or play for a couple of months, then get out of it. It's still going to cost you less than just buying the game at full price, which you had to do when Activision was controlling it. So basically, they took a risk and did it. It was seen as risky, and it hasn't worked out. They've lost a whole bunch of money. It was a dumb decision. Even the CEO, so Bobby Kotick of Activision, he was the one, I think it was at the FCC trial or something. Did they put him on the stand, whatever they do? He said it was a terrible idea, and he would never, ever put Call of Duty behind a subscription service. You're just going to lose all your money. And I'm sure everyone hates him to a degree for what he's done to a number of IPs and games and practices in the industry that he says are innovative, but have just lowered the quality of the medium. People hate him, but they can kind of appreciate that he had some business sense. If he's saying it's a bad idea, you probably shouldn't do it. Phil Spencer, you probably should have listened, given you've done nothing useful for gaming. You don't make any money for gaming, but you also don't put out any products of any worth. So maybe you should have listened. He didn't. Everyone could kind of see it was a risky, possibly bad idea, and they've lost a lot of money on Call of Duty, and now they're having to change plans. It was one of those situations where, despite folks being told, hey, we want to pull trigger on this in 2026, the steps you would need to take in the lead up to delivering a next-gen console weren't being met. So, basically saying that behind the scenes, Microsoft had plans to deliver a next-gen console behind the Series X, or whatever these names are. I mean, essentially, Xbox's version of the PlayStation 6, that generation. Xbox had sort of said internally that they were going to move towards that, but none of the steps were actually being taken internally to do it. So it was like, yeah, we sort of have plans, but deep down it seems like people just kind of saw the writing on the wall that this isn't worth it. So nothing's actually being done. So maybe some head honchos sort of just said, cool off, hold off, don't put any of this in motion. We're still thinking about it, but officially we haven't pulled the plug just yet. And that seems to be what's kind of changing, that they may be starting to pull the plug officially on moving forward with any Xbox hardware in the future. So you mentioned here the Costco retailer pulling Xbox, and apparently they are one of many that we'll soon learn about, and that told the leaker all he needed to know. And this has been going on for a little while now. I mean, here where I live, we have EB Games, which is the GameStop equivalent in this part of the world, and they don't even have Xbox on the website anymore. So if you go on the website and you want to buy anything Xbox related, I don't know if you can find it. It seems to just be gone. And that is a recent development, because I always hear about how Xbox is smaller outside of America, but they had all that stuff on the website. You could buy Xbox stuff. Recently, they removed it all. And they've done that in many other places. Obviously, Costco, many other stores as well, which is just sort of writing on the wall stuff that it's not long for Xbox hardware. It's going to be gone soon. To sum it up, the future of Xbox is software publishing with a significantly honed-in focus on profitable IPs. Call of Duty World of Warcraft, Minecraft, Candy Crush, Forza Horizon, and I'm sure some others that haven't been mentioned, big name IPs. I mean, that might include the Elder Scrolls. I'm sure it will to some extent, whether it is live service stuff that they try and really hone in on, or it might be other things. They might just continue the single player series if it's a big, massive seller and the quality is somewhat there. But I don't think it's a guarantee, because you see these other big names like Call of Duty, Minecraft, Candy Crush. I mean, if you just look year on year at those sort of franchises, they're still bigger than the Elder Scrolls now, which hasn't really had a big entry since 2011 in Skyrim. Sure, there's been remasters and there's the MMO, but the MMO's not making the kind of money that some of these other franchises are. So it might be a bit of a reach to suggest that the Elder Scrolls could be at risk, but I do think if Microsoft just don't care about the single-player side, it takes too long, the investment isn't worth it, even if it does end up a big seller, they might walk away at some point. Probably not with Elder Scrolls 6, but maybe after. I mean, there were rumors that they greenlit Fallout 5, and maybe another studio is making that alongside Bethesda. So that might be safe, unless that gets canned. But I really do think after those maybe next entries of those franchises, there could be more trouble. Microsoft just might not care so much anymore. And even if they keep making those games, the chances of integrity being maintained, not chasing more online live service elements and different things, I think it's unlikely that they won't go in that direction. They won't force Bethesda to put more of that stuff in. Microtransactions, different crap. I mean, they're just going to look at spreadsheets up the top and they're going to see Call of Duty, look at all these incredible skins that we have. Beavis and Butthead, I keep seeing. All these other ones that don't make sense for the universe, just bring them into the Elder Scrolls so we can make a ton more money. People are going to buy these different skins and weapons and different ways they can pay to win. Why wouldn't they pursue that? They don't care about the games themselves whatsoever. They didn't even make them. They bought up all of this crap. They don't create anything. This company has just been a bane on gaming. They've done nothing of worth, really. The best thing that you can say that Xbox and Microsoft have really done is, A, they got out of PC gaming pretty early on in the 2000s. They basically walked away from PC gaming and focused on Xbox. That allowed Valve to move in and save PC gaming and ensure it had a pro-consumer element, which is there today. It's why it's the leader today. Maybe that wouldn't have happened if Microsoft was still fiddling around with PC gaming. So thank you to Xbox for that. And I guess also just creating some competition for Sony and other companies, Nintendo to an extent. So useful for that. But in terms of their own worth and their own output, Xbox have done basically nothing of use. And I don't think they're going to do anything of use with the Elder Scrolls and so on. They're probably going to fuck those up as well. I remember being a little kid and being excited for where Banjo-Kazooie could go once Rare got bought by big Microsoft. And they ruined that as well. We got nuts and bolts. Rare did basically nothing of worth again. It was an embarrassment. Every year I would look for more Banjo-Kazooie news, only for complete disappointment. So thank you so much for that. So Game Pass is going to basically become the point of entry for xCloud Access. It's going to be an entry subscription for xCloud Access. And their big thing they're banking on is cloud gaming, basically. So instead of having the hardware, you pay a subscription, you pay online. The chances of this not being laggy and broken and having a whole bunch of technical problems seems a reach. And I'll tell you what, from the customer point of view, this is just going to be horrible as well. Even if you think this is a great technological innovation, oh my god, we can play the games just on the internet, we don't need the hardware, this is great. But now Microsoft control your entire access to these games. So if you're concerned about Game Pass subs going up, that's one thing, but you've got an alternative. Okay, I don't want to pay the sub. Fuck that, I'm just going to go back to buying the games. But once you have xCloud, if they have games that they make exclusive to xCloud, they can make the price whatever they want, and you don't really have an alternative. How can you pirate a game that you can only stream? Where's the game? I'm not really the technical person behind this, but I would think it'd be very difficult to pirate a game that you can only stream. That seems like it wouldn't be possible. So they can put the price up to whatever they want and people have no choice. And I did say a long time ago, I thought that's where they were maybe going with this. That eventually, once they started to put out games people wanted, which they have to do first, they failed to do that completely. They barely released anything anyone wants. But if they eventually do, given they own so many of these IPs, they can make them exclusive with xCloud. That is how they could get around Steam and all these other stores where people might expect the game. If it's a streaming-only game, well, you're out of luck if you want to play it somewhere else. So they're doing that. Hopefully it doesn't matter because there's nothing that's going to be worth playing given it's Microsoft anyway. But it is a scary gaming future if it's all stream only. It's stream. Do you have a license to plug in and play this game online? You can see it going that way. And then it ends here, the leaker ends saying, releasing their software on any device that has a marketplace and users willing to buy their titles. So just reinforcing that they're going to keep putting their titles everywhere. No exclusivity. Maybe some OEM thing will take up the Xbox name. So I think that's like Xbox goes and has other manufacturers make an Xbox, but it's basically just a PC with an Xbox sticker on it for marketing reasons. And you can't just buy an Xbox game. Those don't exist. It's probably just going to be like a digital machine, and you can buy Steam games, or you can go on the Xbox PC store and buy games. But it's not really an Xbox. It's just a PC with Xbox marketing labels on it. That's essentially it. So maybe they'll do that, but they might not even bother. That's not going to be a profitable item, realistically. Maybe they see the purpose of it as, we don't sell it as a loss. So yeah, we do make a profit technically. We're not going to sell a whole lot of them, so it wouldn't really be worth it for that. But what we get to do is escape the bad PR of announcing the end of Xbox hardware. So it technically still exists. You can buy it. Your library will transfer because of PC. So if you're an Xbox console user, most of those games at least are on PC anyway. So it might be quite easy. If you have an account on Xbox, your games will transfer over to PC, essentially, the Xbox PC store. And we can just pretend that we didn't kill hardware. But really, you're moving from Xbox to PC. That's what you're doing. The console's dead, but we just don't say anything. And we hope not enough people get angry enough about it to make it a big scandal. So we just leave our fans out to dry, basically. We go third party, and we just do PC gaming now. And when we sell the games on PS5 and the Switch, it seems like they're actually doing that, and that's what this might be, this whole Xbox sticker on a PC machine thing that they sell. It sounds pretty stupid. I don't think that's going to succeed too well for them. There were a few other ones. So this leaker made a few other posts that were quite interesting. So there's a lot of people sort of saying, well, why do they keep bragging about Game Pass making billions and billions of dollars? I'm thinking Call of Duty's going to save Game Pass. If they were that confident, they're still saying it's profitable. How is this happening? How are they panicking and Xbox is going to be gone and everything like that? The leaker who has this inside knowledge kind of says, hey, the Western megacorps, particularly Microsoft and their leadership, what they have done for the longest time, for the last 16 years with Xbox, is they've been very focused on winning press conferences, green-lighting things, announcing things, just being the center of attention and grabbing the headlines and everything like that. So they love to come out with big statements that they can't really back up. And it might be a statement that they come to regret later, but it sounds incredible right now. It feels good. I deserve a promotion. I should get Phil's job when he retires, or there's room for me, or Sarah Bond. There's a number of these leaks to point to. Sarah Bond was basically a DEI promotion or something like that and managed to sneak in there. It made a lot of the other Microsoft people unhappy, but they couldn't say anything. That's beside the point. That seemed to have happened. But the guy here, he uses a couple of examples, like apparently in Xbox's E3 2014 presentation, they announced like a ton of games. That was probably the year where there was a million announcements. Maybe Scalebound was in there. There are definitely a ton of others, probably Perfect Dark. This is going back over 10 years. But it was definitely an E3 where they announced so many different projects that eventually did get cancelled, and studios probably got shuttered. So it was just a very good example of them just jumping in there, delivering a whole bunch of news that sounded very positive, but it was half-baked news that they could never really back up, and they never really had any plans to back it up from the sounds of things. They did not have an attitude of, We've announced this, we've got to deliver for the fans. They didn't care about that. It's no, we just care about good news at the presentation, winning the presentation, again, grabbing those headlines. We'll do it again. We don't care if our conference from 2014 looks stupid 10 years on. We just want to keep winning the headlines. They thought that was a mindset that was fine. That sort of stuff probably has worked in the past with Azure and Microsoft Windows and those other areas, the more corporate areas of Microsoft, where the presentations are fine, and even if things change later, people are probably not going to get emotionally invested like they are with gaming, where if you announce a game 5 years ago, we're going to remember, and we're going to expect that game, we're going to be talking about it, creating communities talking about it. And then if it's shit, or if it gets cancelled, we're going to be happy. The shit example being Redfall, which they shipped when they probably shouldn't have, but they announced it and tried to hype it up and everything like that, like they would one of their other Microsoft software products in the corporate sector. So it was a big mistake. They've made a lot of these big mistakes. They focused on winning the conferences. That didn't translate well to gaming, where you need to actually deliver some decent products to keep people's interest and stop becoming a laughingstock, and they could never do it. The leaker actually says here, I can say without question that the best thing for their competitors that Microsoft ever did was putting Phil Spencer in charge. The fact that he used actual marketing budget from Xbox to launch an AstroTurf-led PR campaign amongst gaming communities to create this folksy persona that we've all grown accustomed to. It's just the typical sociopathy you can expect to see from the executive corporate class of most mega corporations. So if you remember all those conspiracy theories about, hey, Phil keeps coming out in like a Hexen t-shirt, that old FPS, and he keeps doing this whole, hey, fellow gamers routine, I'm just like you, I'm playing. Have you seen my gamer score? Have you been with me in a game playing? I always find time for games, despite my important business work, my corporate work. You'll see me in the trenches playing these games. I'm just like you. That was all bullshit. It was an act. He was paying marketing people, PR people, to create this persona and to push it. He was spending actual dollars on that. It wasn't just he created the impression when he got on stage. Like, this was an actual campaign behind the scenes that had other people involved in. And it kind of worked for the longest time. I mean, I was kind of fooled in a way. I thought, well, he seems to somewhat care about games. Maybe he means well. He didn't. He's just another liar. It's obviously clear now. For the last few years, it's been extremely clear. But he's just bullshitted the entire time. Like, the entire time he has been at Microsoft, he does not care about the games whatsoever. He's just desperate to climb the Microsoft ladder. And I think it's going to fail miserably for him, because the easiest thing that Microsoft can do now is they move away from hardware. There's a whole bunch of bad PR. They can just throw him under the bus, get rid of him with the Xbox brand. That's the best thing that they can do. It'll look good for them. They move on from him. Everyone wants to sink the boot in anyway because they hate him, they're sick of him, and they think he's destroyed Xbox and everything that's gone wrong. So it's just going to be easy. That'll probably be his fate. So he seems to deserve it with everything that he's done. The folksy fake persona, I mean, come on. And there was this as well. The leaker backed it up with something else. I'll never forget the story I heard that Phil celebrated when he saw the announcement video for Horizon Forbidden West on the PS5. He saw that and he thought to himself, Halo Infinite blows it out of the water. Sony are totally losing it. We're on the up and up. A month later, they did the gameplay reveal for Infinite, which went so poorly that the game got delayed out of Xbox Series launch for over a year. And then when it released, it was still half a game. It was lazy. It was like some really half-baked Ubisoft open world with very little content in it. It was a bit of a disaster and probably has killed that series. I doubt they're going to invest too much in Halo. There was talk about some presentation they're doing soon. Who knows what that's for? It may not mean another AAA Halo game, because they've just failed that many times, and they've said they just care about the money in the short term now. Those big franchises guaranteed to print money. I don't think Halo is one of them anymore. They've blown it, and they have Call of Duty now, so they don't really need another FPS. But just on that about his PR image and everything, he had this too, where someone did ask about, like, this sounds pretty juicy, it sounds pathetic and so weird, I need to hear more. the bit about using actual marketing resources to pay for Phil the Gamer Spencer persona is just next level wow. And the leaker backed it up again and said, yep, that's it. He has actual folks on payroll playing his Xbox account to drum up his gamer score, to boost that gamer image. It's really, really sad. That used to be a common thing. Look, he's playing, guys. Let's see what he's doing. Wow. He's paying people to do it. He's paying people to play. I mean, this is just kind of like the Elon Musk thing where he paid Chinese gamers to boost his Diablo account. But it's even worse because Phil Spencer was doing it for 10 plus years. And he saw it as critical to his image. And people were being paid round the clock to come up with strategies and get his gamer score up. He needs to be at the top there so people take him seriously as a gamer. That was his mindset, and it failed miserably because it's like, okay, on the surface, people might believe it. But then practically, you've produced no games. You've produced nothing that anyone wants. All the games have failed and have been seen as pretty much average across the board, which suggests you know nothing about games. You don't care about games. That's why this has happened. You've mismanaged every single studio that you've either started or have bought. You've ruined studios. You've ruined IPs. That is the Xbox legacy, and it's the Phil legacy. That's been it for the last, 15 years or something that he's been in charge. It's been quite a while since that whole Xbox One debacle, which is when he took over. I mean, he was still there doing stuff behind the scenes. Seems like back then, the big mistake Microsoft made after the whole Don Matrick fiasco, they should have got rid of the entire team. The whole leadership team should have been canned. Instead, they promoted Phil internally, and it was just more of the same. Someone else out of touch, but he just paid someone to boost his gamer score. So you'd think that he wasn't just meet the new boss, same as the old boss. You'd think he cared about the games. He didn't. He's just another corporate shill. And that shows in those emails I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the leaked emails. If you go online and find those, they're so cringe-inducing and embarrassing. You can't believe it's real. It just feels fake. Like, that guy, he seems like a Redditor fanboy talking about Xbox. The way he describes it and sucking up to the boss. We're going to win the generation. We've got the best product. We're on the market. I'm feeling giddy. I'm feeling excited. It was all just delusion. It was all embarrassment. They've totally failed. Based on not just these leaks, but actual movement that's going on the ground of Xbox being pulled from stores, the Game Pass Ultimate doubling in price, just about going up 50%, and just pricing themselves out of being a good deal. There's no reason to own an Xbox, it seems. They're not producing any games that people want. They're probably just going to start going all in on live service, not really games for you and me, it seems like. Maybe there'll be a select few, but I think they're going to close down a lot of these studios that we see. The ones we were interested maybe in that they bought, Obsidian, before they turned to shit, as we've seen more so over the last few years. I mean, Double Fine, they're releasing some Lighthouse game, a far cry from their Psychonauts 2 work. Who knows what's going to happen to them? I can't see them being part of the new strategy. Most of the Bethesda ones, they take a long time to make games, and the good ones were single-player focused, so who knows what's going to happen with them? It really does just feel like Western AAA gaming is just totally spiraling. They can't make good games. If they make a game, it takes like 6-7 years, and it's got to sell 30 million copies. If it doesn't, it's a flop, even if it's a kind of a niche experience, like the Dead Space remake, which is kind of relevant because EA got sold, it's gone private, and it's new owners and everything now. So things just aren't going well for Western gaming. It does feel like the future is indie. There's some decent stuff in Asia. I mean, even Konami seem to have got it together to a degree. I mean, when you're in the position that Konami are like the voice of reason in gaming, of who to look to, who are doing a decent job, that's getting pretty sad in the industry. So things are definitely changing, and Xbox are not part of any of the future, really, especially when it comes to quality, especially when it comes to single-player games. But we'll leave it there. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.